A lot of guys ask, what do I say to women? What do I say to sound like an attractive, high-value man? Well, here's the truth. Most guys talk their way out of attraction, while high-value guys, often they barely say anything, yet within minutes, the woman is mentally chasing them. And it's not about having better lines. I've seen guys with horrible jokes, broken grammar, even guys total silence, and yet women still see them, still interact with them as if they're a high-value man. Meanwhile, other guys are saying all the right things and she loses interest instantly. Well, I've been coaching guys for over a decade now, and after analyzing thousands of interactions, what I found is that women aren't listening to your words the way you think they are. They're watching the invisible dynamic underneath what you're actually saying, how you're interacting with them. So in this video, I'm gonna show you 5 rules for talking like a high-value man. And once you see these, you'll understand why some guys get chased while other guys constantly talk themselves into the friend zone. Hi, I'm Bobby Rio, and these tips, I'm gonna be honest, they may sound a little weird or different than what you'd expect, but if you pay attention, you'll see exactly why they work. Because here's the counterintuitive part. The more you try to make a woman assume that you're cool, or you'd make a great boyfriend, or you're high status, the more she actually assumes the opposite. Because when you're trying to sell her on that image, when you're trying to sell yourself too much, what she really hears is, this guy needs my approval. And that instantly lowers your value. The guy who comes across as high value, these guys don't force it. They don't make her aware of how cool they are. They let her draw the conclusion on their own. Now, here's the tricky part. A lot of guys hear a question from a woman and they think, perfect, this is my big chance to impress her. A lot of times we even have, we have certain things we think are impressive about us, and we almost wait for the woman to bring it up so that we finally have a chance to talk about it. Wrong. Most of the time, what she's really doing is she's throwing out one of these invisible tests. And one of the most common ones is the qualification trap. And one of the first things you have to be aware of is you have to avoid the qualification trap. So if you've ever been with a woman and she asks you something like, so why are you still single? Or what are you looking for in a woman? Or tell me something interesting about yourself. Now, these questions, they sound like innocent questions, but they're actually qualifying traps. They put you in the hot seat, and they basically say, prove yourself to me. And what do most guys do? They treat it like a freaking exam, and suddenly they're sitting up straight and they're like rattling off answers. Well, I've just been focusing on my career, and I'm looking for someone loyal and down to earth. And one interesting thing about me is I once backpacked through Europe. And it's like watching a guy audition for Who Wants to Be the Boyfriend, and you can almost hear the buzzer go off, like, thanks for playing, buddy. But here's the thing. High-value men, they don't jump through these hoops. They don't fall for the qualification trap. They don't take the bait that the woman is giving them, right? They don't fall into it. Instead, what they do is they sidestep it with a playful deflection, something that flips the frame. So if she says, why are you still single? You might say something like, yeah, I don't know, I guess I'm picky. You might be in trouble. Or, what are you looking for in a woman? Well, someone who laughs at my corny jokes. You're doing pretty good so far. Or you might say, mostly someone who can cook a really good omelet. If she says, tell me something interesting about yourself. I don't know, I can moonwalk after 2 drinks. So you see the difference? Or if she says, tell me something interesting about yourself, you might go, I can moonwalk, but only after 2 drinks. See the difference? Instead of proving yourself and taking her questions seriously like she's some judge you have to impress, you just flip it to something playful. You're not auditioning. You're inviting her into this fun little game. And that's how you pass the test, by refusing to even play it, by refusing to take it seriously. And that ties back to one of the unspoken rules of what I call the invisible game. You never look like you're taking anything too seriously. The second that she feels like you're stressing, or you're overthinking things, or you're over-explaining an answer, you're trying too hard, the magic disappears, which brings us to the next point. So the second thing is playfully withholding what she wants. So Every woman fishes for validation or compliments. She'll say things like, "Did you miss me?" or "Do you think I look cute?" Or she'll pause waiting for you to compliment her new dress or her hair or whatever. And what does the average nice guy do? He jumps on it, right? He jumps right in with, "Of course I missed you. Oh my God, you look amazing. You're the prettiest girl in the room. I couldn't wait to see you. I've been thinking about you all week." Like, he's like vomiting validation. It's like throwing her a whole birthday cake when she just wanted a tiny little taste. You give away all the tension, and suddenly there's no game left to play. High value men, they do it a little differently. They give her just enough to keep her guessing, but never so much that she feels full. Never so much where she feels like she's got you wrapped around her finger. So maybe she asks you, "Do you miss me?" The high value way to respond to this is to kind of smirk and say, "Well, I missed your back rubs. My shoulder's been killing me." And then you might wait a beat and go, yeah, I missed you too though. But you say it in a way where she can't tell if you're serious or teasing. It's this concept of pushing and pulling. You're giving her a little bit, you're taking it away. "I missed you." "Well, actually, I missed your back rubs. My back's been killing me." Was he serious? Was he not serious? You're keeping the game going. You're keeping the tension alive. So maybe she says, "Do you think I look cute?" Instead of pouring it on, "Cute? You're all right. I've seen worse," right? With a grin. Then you give her the real thing later when it counts, when she's not asking for it, where you go, "Actually, you do look really great tonight." See, what happens is by playfully withholding, you then create tension. And tension is what keeps her leaning in. It keeps her chasing that next hit of validation. That's the heart of the invisible game. You're not denying her. You're not being a stoic jerk. You're just making her work a little bit harder for it. A lot of times when you playfully withhold it, a girl will act offended or she'll act upset. She'll roll her eyes or she'll give you a little, "Wow, really?" And here's where most guys fold. They panic, they start explaining themselves, justifying, or worse, they lay all their cards on their table like, "I was only flirting, I thought that's what a woman wants," or "That's what Bobby Rio told me to do in a video." Now, to be clear, if you generally have done something wrong, or you really upset a woman, you insulted her, like, there's a time and a place for explanations and apologies. But the average guy, he's like an explanation dealer. He's just constantly handing out justifications that she doesn't even want. She's not even asking for. Which brings us to the third rule of talking like a high value man. Stop explaining yourself. Women notice how you respond when they push back, and nothing kills attraction faster than a guy who's scrambling to justify every move he makes. So for example, and this was actually a post in our Untamed Man community this morning where a guy was talking about a girl that he's been dating, and she had gone away on vacation, and then when he saw her again, she said, "I thought you would have texted me more while I was away." Well, his instinct was to explain, "Oh, I would have, I just didn't want to crowd your space." Sounds reasonable, right? Wrong, because what she hears is, he's worried I'll get upset, so he's trying to manage my emotions, and that puts her in the masculine role while you slip into the feminine role. The high value move is you don't explain, you redirect, you play. So in that situation, a stronger response would have been like, "You really missed me, didn't you? Go ahead, admit it." See the difference? Like instead of going, "Oh, I would have texted you more," and you just go, you missed me. You couldn't wait to hear from me. You're keeping it playful. You're keeping the tension alive, right? Instead of shrinking and justifying, you flip it back on her in a flirty, playful way. No explanations, no apologizing for things that don't need apologizing for. Because the more you explain, the more you look like you're chasing her approval. And in the invisible game, that's a guaranteed way to lose the frame. Okay, next. So I'm gonna tell you the most attractive word you can say to a woman. It's 2 letters. Can you guess what that word is? The most attractive word you can say to a woman is the word no. One of the fastest ways a woman decides whether you're high value or not is how comfortable you are not giving in to her. How comfortable you are saying no to her. How comfortable you are not making yourself constantly available for her. Most guys are terrified of this. They think if they ever say no, or if they have plans on a day she wants to meet up, she's gonna get upset, she's gonna lose interest, she's gonna disappear. So they bend over backwards, they adjust, They agree to everything, even when it's not in their best interest or not even what they want. But here's the truth. Nothing communicates self-respect and standards faster than a calm, unapologetic no. It can be as simple as, no, I can't Thursday. I got plans. Or, no, I'm not really into that show. I haven't watched it. No, I don't feel like it tonight. Notice, no excuses. No over-explaining it. No, you're not saying, no, I can't go out this Thursday, but any other day next week will be good for me. I'm really sorry. You're just saying, no, I can't. I got plans already. All right? You're not over-explaining it, right? You're just giving her a simple no. And that's the thing. A high-status person doesn't have to explain himself. If you think about like the boss and the employee is like, oh, the boss, did you finish the report? Oh, I'm sorry, I tried to, but my dog ate it, and he's got all these excuses because he's trying to impress the boss. On the other hand, the boss is just like, no, I didn't get to it. He doesn't have to give the employee an explanation. Well, in this sort of realm, it's like, well, you and her, you don't have an obligation to explain yourself. You don't have an obligation to do everything she wants. So you can just say no and let it sit. And here's the cool part. Women actually find it refreshing because most men are afraid to risk it. When you're the guy who is willing to say no, it signals that you're not desperate for her approval. You've got options, you've got boundaries, and you got a life of your own. Now, this doesn't mean you become like a contrarian who says no to everything. That's just being difficult. The power comes from being selective, saying no when it matters, saying no when you actually mean it. Because in the invisible game, a man with boundaries, I can tell you this, he's 10 times more attractive and more respected than a man without them. Most guys think that a way to impress a woman is to keep stacking achievements and funny lines and look how great I am type of moments. But here's the paradox. Trying to impress her makes you look less impressive because it puts her above you and it puts you in the role of performer. High-value men, they flip it. They assume she's already impressed, which frees them to just be human. And this is where something that I call cool vulnerability comes in, which is the fifth of our ways to communicate as a high-value man. Cool vulnerability, all right? So what is cool vulnerability? Cool vulnerability, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not dumping your insecurities on her or trauma bonding on a date. It's about sharing something real in a confident, sort of matter-of-fact way that makes her feel closer to you. Think about how actors in interviews, they don't brag about their awards or their big houses or any of that, right? What do? They laugh at themselves. They tell a goofy story. They admit a little quirk that they have. Why? Because it humanizes them. They already have the status, right? So they don't need, it would actually be weird if they were like up there bragging. It would lower their value. And that's what a lot of guys don't realize. When you have status, you don't have to say things to raise your status. Instead, again, you watch these actors on these interviews, they're humanizing themselves. They're trying to make themselves relatable. And ironically, it makes them more magnetic. So for example, it could be a simple line like, instead of trying to one-up her, you know, if you guys are talking about travel, you might say something, honestly, I'm always the one who gets lost. Like my Google Maps hates me. He like literally yells at me. Or if she compliments your confidence, you could grin and say, yeah, I wasn't always like this. I was a total nervous wreck around women in high school. You should have saw me. Another example of cool vulnerability is in the stories you tell. So for instance, one of my go-to stories back when I was dating was about the time that my mom sent me to a Boy Scout sleepaway camp when I was 12, which was hilarious because I was like the least Boy Scout kid you can imagine. I couldn't pitch a tent. The lake had like snapping turtles in it that scared the hell out of me. The Boy Scout leaders were like always trying to get me to sit on their lap. No, that's not true. Maybe they were, I don't remember that. But I was miserable, right? And all the other kids at the camp, all the Boy Scout kids hated me because I was the one kid, like all of them were sleeping in sleeping bags on the floor, and I showed up with an air mattress, right? Well, that kind of story works because it's not me trying to impress her. It's me letting her in on a goofy, human, sort of humorous side of myself, and then, bonding over it a little bit, right? 9 out of 10 times when I told this story, she'd light up because it feels real. It feels like she's getting a glimpse of the actual me, not the performance, not the Bobby Rio trying to get in her pants, just the Bobby Rio being himself, telling a story from his childhood. That's cool vulnerability. Cool vulnerability says, I'm confident enough not to be perfect. And that, more than any rehearsed lines, makes her lean in. It makes her trust you. It makes her feel a connection with you. So those are the 5 rules for talking like a high-value man, right? You got to avoid the qualification trap. You got to withhold what she wants. You've got to stop explaining yourself. You've got to get comfortable saying no, and you've got to use cool vulnerability. These are all things. None of these things require you memorizing long, in-depth stories or pickup lines or anything. These are literally things you can use immediately and try out. Now, here's what you need to understand. These aren't random tricks. They're part of the invisible game that's happening under the surface every time you interact with women. It's not about the exact words. It's about the assumptions she's making. Who's chasing? Who's seeking approval? Who's setting the frame? Who's entering whose reality? And when you know the hidden rules, when you see the tests, right? All of these are tests in a sense. When you see them for what they are, suddenly you're not scrambling for the right line anymore. You're steering the whole interaction without her even realizing it. So that's why I put together a full breakdown of the entire invisible game, the step-by-step process that shows you exactly how to flip the script, pass her tests, and make her feel like she's the one chasing you. It's all inside my brand new book called The Invisible Game, and there's a link in the description, or you can go to invisiblegamebook.com to grab a copy, or you can find it on Amazon and other bookstores. But I'll tell you this, if you get it on Amazon, you're gonna miss out on all of the bonuses you get with it if you grab it from invisiblegamebook.com. Now, as always, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know what your biggest insight was, let me know what you want to see me cover in next videos, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future videos.